It wouldn't be a limit. The limit would be like actually $100,000 is what I got today because I'm trying to find. I know they're looking out of 40. Yeah. Realistically, it should be no higher than the next level. Don't get me wrong. Realistically, it just Excel 2, depending on what's available, doesn't need to be that in a way.
I am calling this meeting to order at 7:31 p.m. We'll move to section 1 roll call, or section 2 roll call.
With 24 members present, simple majority is 13 and 2/3 majority is 16.
Wonderful. We move to section 3 introductions and reports. First, 3.1 messages from the student body president.
Senators, pursuant to the authority granted to me by the Student Body Constitution, under Article 3, Section 4, I have chosen to veto AR-67-008, the Academic Advisor Feedback Act. The basis for this veto is on the grounds that this resolution does not provide sufficient information or evidence to support the claims made by the resolution sponsor, Senator Mallard. The resolution does not provide any proof of contact made with the advising departments on campus, nor does it provide proof that advisors are not knowledgeable in their students' degree requirements or that they are inadequately available during enrollment season. I'm not vetoing this bill because I do not believe these claims. I simply encourage that moving forward we dig deeper and provide more background information when writing/presenting resolutions to this body. Thank you, President Kylie Hauer.
Okay, team, we haven't seen this before, so I'm going to explain and then have our Dr. Advisor Gabriel Fonseca explain more about what this means and also what overriding a veto is and how we do it. So, Dr. Gabe, if you could give us some insight, thank you.
So when pieces of legislation pass the Senate, right, that's just one step of how the student government approves legislation, funding bills, resolutions, whatever it might be. The student body president constitutionally has the ability to either sign things into law, which then they take effect, or they veto them. A veto is within the purview of solely the student body president. The Senate has the ability to attempt an override of the veto. There's in the same clause that was mentioned in the message, stipulates a process to do that, has to occur at the next Senate meeting, and it has to be overridden. You can attempt an override with a 2/3 vote, and if it passes, then it goes into effect still. If it doesn't fail, then the bill is done for the year because the veto was not overridden. So just a process of how that works, and if you have questions specifically about it, I'm happy to answer those.
Are there any questions for Advisor Fonseca? I'll ask a question that I'm sure people want to know. So the 2/3 majority, is that 2/3 of those present or 2/3 of total Senate seats?
So it is of present now. So last year there was a constitutional amendment that adopted a change to that language. So our 2/3 definition, according to the bylaws, is 66.6% of those present at any meeting. If there is someone who wishes to attempt that override process, just let me know and I will walk you through how that works, but it is done through a resolution process. And again, that has to be done by the next Senate meeting, or again, the resolution will remain vetoed. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding that Okay, so to clarify for all of you, December 4th is obviously the only time that this veto can, or this override of the veto can happen, which means any resolutions need to be submitted to me and the clerk by 5 p.m. next Friday. If any of you would like to do that, please make sure to email myself, Advisor Fonseca, and the clerk so we can walk you through that process. I know in all of my years here, the 4th year running here, that hasn't happened before. So I just want to make sure you all have that information and it's as accessible as possible for you all because it is new. So any questions? Senator Miller?
This is just a point of information. Is it possible that we can control the thermostat in here? Because it's very cold.
Thank you so much. I also feel the same. Dr. Gabe also literally just turned it up
Yeah,
a little.
I just turned it up.
It was at 55. Hey, from what I've heard from very qualified sources, it gets way hotter when we have a lot of bodies, and we have a lot of guests today. So, him being the qualified source. Okay. Any other questions regarding that? Okay. We will move on to 3.2, report from the executive branch, Vice President Fawn.
Good evening, everyone. I hope your week has gone well so far. So last Thursday, the cabinet visited WCU Tech, where we toured their facilities, and then we also met with WCU Tech's advisory board. It was a pretty productive meeting. We got to meet a lot of amazing new students, and we look forward to working more with all of our satellite campuses and hearing back from the students from those areas. Today, President Howard and I went to Manhattan for the Kansas Board of Regents meeting. We met with the System Council of Chief Academic Officers and the Council of and the Academics Affairs Committee. In those two meetings, they discussed programming for the first 15, which is the initiative where the first 15 credit hours would be free for incoming students coming to universities throughout the different institutions. It's still a work in progress, but they also approved several different transferable courses so that they can be pretty unified across any institution. And also today, we met with the Student Advisory Council, which is where all the student body presidents of all our Kansas Board of Regents institutions meet together. We discussed our goals for Higher Ed Day, which is when we go to talk to legislators in the spring, and where we will promote different initiatives. We will continue to working our goals for Higher Ed Day in the next 2 days, and we'll finish the discussion for that. Some of you may have seen this in the Sunflower, that the Vice President of Finance and Administration, Dr. Aaron Mitchell, has left the university. I can confirm that he did resign from his position. I do not have any more information regarding that matter, but I'll be sure to update the Senate as I find out more in the next few weeks. And I would also love to meet with every single one of you for a one-on-one meeting to discuss the goals that you'll have for this year, what I can help you with, and just to get to know you better. I said this last week, but I'll be sending emails to everyone soon, and then my hope is that you should be able to connect to your dean if you haven't met them already. I know for some facilitators already set up a meeting with their deans to work out some issues within the colleges, so it's just my hope that you become a lot more familiar with who your dean is and some of your constituents. I talked to the Director of Facility Services, Easton Breyer, and talking about the bill that we had up for Senate today. He did confirm that they did have vehicles that can move 1 to 2 ton trailers for their trucks, but as John Lee comes up to answer questions, I'm sure he can answer more about the truck that any of you may have questions for. And then for that bill, it's $90,000 for the truck, and if you haven't read it already. For our Chief of Staff, Westbrook, he is uploading all of the signed Senate bills into the shared drive, so it should be all up to date within a week or two. For our Director of International Student Affairs, 1J, for his guest speaker event collaboration, He's working with the Shocker Career Accelerator, and they have successfully reserved the Santa Fe room for the upcoming guest speaker. And they actually have secured their first guest speaker, who is a seasoned international professional who has successfully navigated industry sponsorship challenges. Our goal is to have a couple more speakers for that event in the spring. So if you know any international students, or if you would be interested in going to that event, please keep an eye out. We'll be posting more about that very soon. We are also having a Thanksgiving collaboration event. So our director is partnering with the Housing and Residence Life, where we're organizing a special Thanksgiving initiative to provide meals for international students staying on campus throughout the holiday. This effort aims to ensure that all students feel included and supported during this time. For the transit brochure and training initiative guide that we have been putting together, there is still a work in progress. The tentative date that we have for it to be sent out to all of our students is January. We're hoping to have it ready by the time they do all their orientations for our international students coming in. There is a slight delay on that as the person that we've been working with from the Wichita Transit side has resigned, so it's taking a little longer than we anticipated. But in addition to the Thanksgiving event and the other collaborations that we have, we're planning to have a winter break food security initiative. So we'll now include partnerships with Trader Joe's to have food available for students throughout the winter break. And this will provide students with greater access to fresh produce and essential groceries during the late break. For our Director of Policy and Legislative Affairs, Arns, she is working on K-Board preparation for Higher Ed Day, in addition to just preparing different K-Board initiatives that we have. For our Director of Leadership and Engagement, Fritz, the Freshman Leadership Council, collaboration with our Engaging Leaders program with the Student Engagement and Belonging Office is now complete, and I would say it's been a pretty good success. They are now focusing on their very next event, Cocoa Fun Time, scheduled for December 4th from 4 to 8 p.m. in the Shocker Hall lobby. For our Director of Media Relations, Sanoff, the inquiry form for SGA is now on our Instagram, and we can share the Microsoft forms linked to any students that might want to fill it out, and I'll put it in the Senate Resources folder if you want to access that. And if you know any students that really have feedback to share with students, I would highly encourage you to share it with them. For our undergraduate advocate law senior, she currently has 4 cases currently, so 2 parking or traffic concerns and then 2 academic appeal. Advocate Tran and her are working with the Director of Media Relations to put together a video as well as a graphic highlighting our SGA office's resources during final season and winter break. Additionally, Chairperson Adriana Owens, Advocate Tran, and her have been working with President Howard to coordinate a accessibility task force, and that should be start up pretty soon, and we're pretty excited for that. For our graduate advocate Tran, she currently has 1 parking case, so I'll stand for any questions that anyone may have.
Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you. We'll move to 3.3, report from the Speaker of the Senate. So team, I addressed a lot of the things that I wanted to talk to all of you about in Committee of the Whole, but I'll reiterate the fine points for all of you. As I stated earlier, myself and a couple of our chairs will be gone this Friday at a Mono UN conference until the 26th? Yeah, okay, I'm hearing a nod. And then additionally, as I stated in Committee of the Whole today, December 4th, we'll have our one-on-ones little holiday party in Committee of the Whole with some lovely cookies and some activities and hot chocolate. And that'll be a space to really make sure we're really feeling like our initiatives are completed, are done. We feel proud about those as we enter the spring session. Oh, welcome in, welcome in. And then really see what we can do when we start the spring semester and make sure that we really have a schedule there because, hey, spring is a really condensed moment because we have student fees. Beyond that, we have also make sure to CC me when you email individuals about your initiatives. I would love to be on those. I love to see them, even though I'm just like, ooh, that's nice. It's just good practice there, so make sure you're CCing me, myself, the chairs, anyone else who is applicable to those kinds of emails. Also, it can help to make sure people will like email you faster if they're like, wow, there's a lot of people on this email. So try to do that when you can. And beyond that, the deadline for legislation this spring semester is next Friday, November 29th at 5 p.m. So make sure all of your legislation, if you want it considered for December 4th, is done by that time. I would like noon. I would like you all to get it in by noon, but hey, 5 is the end there. That's the cutoff. So make sure you get that in, and the template has been provided. So I expect you all to deliver in that sense. Thank you. Beyond that, I want to say also the holiday season can be a little tough, especially for students who are far away from home or, out of state, or maybe don't have that support system. So just make sure you're being extra kind to people, including people who are far away from home and, providing extra support as you can, because it can be tough. Also, December 4th is our last meeting, and then we adjourn for winter session until like January, like something. So late January. So we do not have a lot of time. So we've really got to lock in people. Okay, that's all I have, team. Any questions? Beautiful. Seeing none, we move on to 3.4, report from Government Oversight, Chairperson Bobbitt.
The Government Oversight Committee met again today and continued discussions on SB 67-123. The bill is receiving some wonderful feedback and continues to undergo modification and discussion surrounding what changes we'd like to see exactly. The goal is to get a draft to the floor of the Senate as soon as possible. I don't know if we'll make it this semester, but when we do, rest assured it will be the best product that we can put forward. Thank you.
Beautiful stuff. Any questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you. We'll move to 3.5, report from Academic Affairs, Chairperson Grajeda.
Hello. Faculty Senate did not meet this week, so no report there. There will be one next time. Academic Affairs met informally today. We only had 4 members present, but we discussed progress on our initiatives, some light restructuring on how we run our meetings, as well as finishing up scheduling our end of semester one-on-ones. And in terms of initiatives, we mainly discussed some concerns regarding registration. We addressed some technical concerns with the Academic Advisor Feedback Act. And then Senator Mallard touched on this during Committee of the Whole, but we also discussed some potential changes to the university's curriculum regarding gen eds. And I will sit for questions.
Okay, are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We'll move to 3.6, report from Diversity, Empowerment, and Inclusion, Chairperson Haynes.
Good evening, everybody. So today, the EI committee met informally so that we can just work on our personal initiatives. The Campus Climate Committee meeting had to be rescheduled, so now that's scheduled for December 10th. So when I come from that meeting, y'all will know at the next Senate meeting. Other than that, everybody in the committee is working on some piece of legislation. So hopefully by either the end of the semester or at the start of spring, y'all will see something from at least everybody. Other than that, the agency is, for agency updates, ASC this Friday there will be hosting their potluck with FGSO, which is our first generation student organization, International Student Union. So those 2 organizations at Woolsey Hall at 6 p.m. on Friday, and then they will have their ramen night next Tuesday in Woolsey Hall at 6 p.m. For our Black Student Union, yesterday they had their general body meeting where they played Black History Trivia, as well as had their informational session for the Big 12 conference. Tomorrow they're having their feminism and the LGBTQ+ Black community in RSC 266 at 7 p.m. where they will discuss intersectionality between the queer and Black communities. On Tuesday, December 3rd, they will have their next general body meeting at 7 p.m. in Hubbard Hall. And then on December 5th, they'll have their gingerbread house building contest at 7 p.m. in RSC 233. Additionally, today, BSU is playing in the intramural playoffs for volleyball, so wish them all the best, and they will not be hosting any events next week due to Thanksgiving break. For our friends at Halo, which is our Hispanic American Leadership Organization, they met for their Friendsgiving potluck last Wednesday. I went. The food was good, y'all, so if y'all didn't go, y'all missed out. Similarly, next week, they won't be hosting anything because of Thanksgiving break. For our International Student Union, like I said before, ISU, Asian Student Conference, and First Gen Student Organization will host their potluck. International Student Union presented at Southeast High School, and that presentation went well. They also did some tabling for the World Wanderers event, which was hosted by the Office of International Education. And then they're still working on paying our Interfest vendors, so they're doing some good work over there. And then for our friends at Spectrum, today is Transgender Day of Remembrance, so they're currently having their vigil today, and that event is today from 7 till 9 p.m. Additionally, they're having their collaboration event with Black Student Union tomorrow, and they're hosting their winter drag show on December 7th. And it will sit for any questions.
Okay, any questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Beautiful as always. Now we move to 3.7, report from Student Services Chairperson Adriana Owens.
Hello, everyone. My committee met and voted on AR-67-010 OSAT motor vehicles with a unanimous decision to commit to Senate. Vice President Fan came to committee to discuss collaboration on our parking initiatives, and I had a meeting with both the graduate and undergraduate advocates to discuss the ADA task force and other accessibility-related topics, such as the survey, which should be ready to send to students on the first week of spring semester. That's tentative. Here's hoping. My committee continues to work on our initiatives, and I have been working with Senator Izzard regarding their ADHD scholarship legislation and Senator Miller on their Stop the Spread Act, as well as the fact coming after November 27th, I will have my committee meetings in the SEV office instead due to construction. I'm open to questions.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We'll move to 3.8, report from Central Office. Central Office.
Good evening, everyone. There we go. Just a reminder, if you have not registered for spring classes, please make sure that you have done so. In order to remain a senator, you have to be enrolled by the first day of spring session, so please make sure that you do that. In addition, kind of I've mentioned this a couple times today, after tonight we'll be in November recess until December 4th, which means starting on Friday, the SJ office will be closed until December 2nd when we're back there. In addition, I did want to give a special shout out to the Shockers Vote Coalition, who helped lead many of our election and voter engagement work this cycle. The team is this week in DC attending a conference that they received grant funding to attend. In addition, they also helped secure the 2024 Most Engaged Campus for the college student voting recognition again in the back-to-back year as well. So let's give them a round of applause for all of their work. And then finally, last meeting I mentioned that we did make some appointments to the Elections Commission, and I wanted to introduce our Chief Elections Commissioner, and as she walks up, I will give a brief introduction to her. This is Bella Kilman. Bella is a sophomore business major. She did serve on the commission last year, doing a lot of the marketing and outreach and coordination effort, and then was appointed, of course, this year to lead the commission. So please help me welcome Chief Commissioner Kilman.
Hi, everyone. So like you said, my name is Bella Kilman, and I served on the commission last year, and I will again be serving as your Chief Elections Commissioner for the 2025 general election. So today I really just wanted to share some of the things that we plan on doing to keep the students engaged and just some key points. So the biggest thing is that we will be announcing that students can declare candidacy on January 29th, so be on the lookout for that. To get students involved, hopefully to announce their candidacy and then again to vote, is by sending out mass emails to the students who are eligible to maybe run and vote. We hope to provide incentives. So if you voted last year, you probably saw the Chick-fil-A tickets. We plan on offering those again. Voting locations around campus, this is new, rather than just being in the RSC, being in high traffic areas like Woolsey or Alburgh is another location we mentioned. And then we will also be reaching out, to joint leadership for testimonies. So please be on the lookout for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, are there any questions for either of our speakers? Okay. Seeing none, thank you. We'll give a light snap. Okay, beautiful stuff. You're really getting it. Okay. Now we'll move on to Section 4, Public Forum and Presentations. Public forum provides a chance for individuals to have the privilege of speaking before the Senate. This is a time for the association to listen to what the community has to say, and to that we offer undivided respect and attention. I would like to remind everyone that although we allow the speakers the privilege to use this platform, the opinions of the speakers do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the association or the university. First, we have 4.1, Tia Hill.
Before Anastasia walks up, I kind of want to give a little background as to this presentation. So you're going to go on that side for the PowerPoint. So I think some of you have met Tia. She's the associate director in our office who oversees our campus programming, student organizations, fraternity and sorority life, leadership, traditions, bunch of areas in our department. You probably don't know who this gentleman is. This is Josh Woods. He's the associate director of alumni programming out of the foundation and alumni engagement. In addition to these two, Connor Phelps, who's also the Director of Marketing and Fan Engagement for Shocker Athletics, the three of them led this year's Shocktoberfest programming, which is our version of homecoming, in addition to the connection with Family Weekend that happens. The reason why I asked them to come present and talk about this, fun fact for those none of you probably know, because none of you were probably born for this, but homecoming was actually established by the student government in its very early days, and in some way, shape, or form, homecoming existed in some capacity on campus, thanks to your predecessors who made the decision to establish some sort of way to celebrate campus pride, spirit, and tradition on campus. And again, it has transformed in a variety of different ways, has had different people coordinate and plan it. But this year we've seen some great work in some of the programming that I wanted them to kind of give you guys a report and highlight as to what happened this past year. So I will turn it over to Tia and Josh. Thank you both for being here.
Hello. Okay, good. All right. As mentioned, my name is Tia Hill, Associate Director in Student Engagement and Belonging, and I'm here with Josh Woods to talk about Shocktoberfest. Historically, this event has actually gone on since 1984. Gabe mentioned the history of homecoming and its founding, but Shocktoberfest in itself was an event that took place during homecoming, and then homecoming as we know it after this period of time was dissolved in 1988 following the discontinuation of Shocker football. In 1991, the Student Activities Council brought back Shocktoberfest as a spirit week, which you kind of know it as today. And then in 2010, alumni brought back homecoming. We would continue on to do those programs twice within a year, so a spring spirit program as well as a fall program, and we would do that through 2020. In 2021, homecoming was brought back. We can talk about history later and why that happened, but it was short-lived. And then we would go on to bring back Shocktoberfest as what you know it today in 2023, and bringing in our collaborators with alumni as well as athletics to strengthen that program. And then most recently, many of you experienced our recent Shocktoberfest, which we're going to recap here today. Anything else you want to add? Okay. Yeah, you want to talk about this part?
So our population served, as he has said, there's athletics here, we have students, we have alumni. We're looking at Shocktoberfest as a whole. We kind of broke it down into those categories. So we have our students and our families, pairing it with Family Weekend, our alumni and our friends, Wichita State as a whole, departments and organizations, all of our satellite campuses around the city. Wichita community, we have a lot of commuter students who come to Wichita, so we know that they're kind of all around. And just the business itself. And then Shocker fans, we have a lot of Shocker athletic fans who maybe didn't graduate from Wichita State or didn't attend here who also have an affinity for this school. When we're looking at the strategy of our populations and kind of how we're reaching them, we formed a Shocktoberfest committee this year that's kind of representative from kind of each department around campus that had a part in what we were planning. So that was kind of our next step in that direction. We brought StratCom in to really help communication, streamline it across the university, really getting our voice out there. Just activating campus, so having signs, getting you guys flyers to all of your different areas, and then influencer marketing. We really tapped into Wichita Life and Wichita by EB to really just strengthen that bond out there with the city, showcase what we have offering, and invite them to come experience Wichita State for a day. Anything to add?
So among all those populations, we presented the schedule as you know it this past month. So beginning September, I believe it was 30th. I don't even remember now. We started Shocktoberfest week. Now this, although it was a week of work and what we presented, we had started planning this in the summer with alumni, athletics, our Student Activities Council, and the Student Engagement and Belonging Office. During that time, we recruited student groups to participate. We recruited members to apply for royalty as well as sought nominations. And then we were able to present this schedule of events to you. Some of them were new this year, so alumni brought back a bonfire, which we hadn't seen in many years. We also added Family Weekend as part of it. That allowed us to really elevate the programs and enhance the offerings, and also showcase to student families what campus life at Wichita State is like. So this is kind of a snapshot. In addition, some new events that we hosted would have been the Entrepreneur Market, the Brew Garden and Fan Fest, and then we brought back the parade as well. So hopefully you all got to experience those events. We'll recap some numbers in this next slide.
Let me pass these out.
Yeah. So Josh is going to present a handout that also has some of these same numbers on it. This is a snapshot of the week that demonstrates our total attendance over the week, which was about 7,200. Of course, those aren't unique numbers, but it does capture how we met those populations. And as you can see, we kind of kicked off the week pretty strong with hundreds of people attending both the bonfire, the kickoff, and then with Family Weekend, we really enhanced the overall populations that were in attendance as we welcomed over 200 families to campus to celebrate in the events that we were offering. So fun numbers as well, overall engagement, you'll see up here. Our spirit competition teams, I will say Shocktoberfest is growing. And I say that because last year there were 2 teams. It was as we were coming back from COVID and we're trying to convince individual organizations that this experience is worth it. Over that time, we grew this year by having 6 teams participate. Some other fun facts, we gave over 200 smoothies from Smoothie King away. We had 200 players presented, including our ladies our ladies bowling team presented their rings, and were also announced to all of the Shocker community that they were now an NCAA team. So hopefully you see some of these numbers and see how they demonstrate the commitment to creating a positive experience for students, as well as kind of the fun that was had during that week. You want to talk about entertainment?
Yeah. So entertainment was one of our kind of our obstacles we had in 2024. So in 2023, we brought Tech 9, which was a fun experience. We had overall attendance about 3,000 people at Shocker Madness that evening. We look at this year, we didn't have any entertainment. We dropped about 1,000 people, so we had 2,000 just shy in attendance out of Shocker Madness. We really think this is something we can really build on and improve on for next year and figure out who we want to bring to campus. We think this is a good experience that's really unique to offer to our students. We look at other universities and what they're providing, and we think this is something that can really help just increase that overallness of Shocker Madness and help us end the week.
Yep. And that's just a point we wanted to make, is what was the difference between last year and this year when we think of how we activate campus and the programs that we offer. And then we'll talk about SGA. If you all didn't know, hopefully you know, and you were there, but SGA sponsored a night at Chicken and Pickle during Shocktoberfest week that had several hundred people in attendance. It also offered busing to and from campus for our commuter students as well as those without cars. So it was a very accessible and successful program that also hosted a pickleball competition. And without this group, that wouldn't have been possible. So I wanted to thank you all, but also thank you and recognize your impact to make this week possible. There were, as we saw, several thousand people attended these programs, and you all put your name out there and allowed that to be recognized. And I think there's more opportunity for that in the future as we look at collaborations and opportunities for programming in 2025. So with that, we want to talk about our vision for the future. Yeah, you may recognize somebody up here. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, so our bullet point number 1 on here is Shocktoberfest Student Committee. One thing we really missed this year was that student aspect, student involvement in the decision-making of Shocktoberfest and what was put on this year. And so that's one thing we're going to really hit home with when we go into 2025, is getting that student committee built and ready to help us with those decision-making. Point number 2, desire for tradition. I think just in general, Shocktoberfest has come and gone, as you've seen in our timeline in our history, and it's something we really want to strike on making a tradition out of, so we can continue to build on it, continue to have students hopeful for it for the next year, to look forward for it. And yeah, the community, I think just building on our Wichita community, building on that Shocker pride that we have as a whole. This program, with everything that happens during that week, is one thing we can do to really strengthen that. Timing, we already have next year planned out. I think the next 3 years we have dates for. So on the back of your sheets, we have the dates on there. Mark your calendars. You're ready to get involved. And then our 5th point on here is kind of budget. We had about an $80,000 budget this year with all of our 3 departments.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Gotcha. So budget. This year we had about $80,000 to put towards Oktoberfest, and you guys saw what we were able to put on with that. Our goal is to really build on that with different entities, different departments, and to help build on everything we just executed. And from what we saw this year, it was very successful, and it can only go up from here. Anything to add?
So at this time, we'll open it up to questions if anybody has any.
Okay, are there any questions? Okay, Senator Murphy.
I was looking at the top portion of the by the numbers. Why after the family weekend for student attendance, why is it all just not there? I'm not like saying anything. I'm just kind of wondering.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. The NAs are because we didn't directly track student attendance. As most of you know, when you go to student events, there's a line of us standing there with card readers. At those events, we were not specifically checking in students to those, so we don't have a hard number. We can make a guesstimate, but we didn't want to do that.
Okay, any other questions? Senator Mallard?
I know you mentioned like the surrounding community, but in your opinion, how much of an impact did this have on not just WSU students, alumni, possible students, but like the area in total and like the effects of it?
I don't know if we have an impact kind of data to go with that, but Shocker Madness in itself, those overall numbers, a lot of those are community numbers, as well as the students that attended that. We can say like how many family members were in attendance. We had over 700 family members, and majority of those people were from the area, but also came from as far as Washington State. So those families fly in for that weekend and invest in our community to make that happen.
Are there any other questions? Let me get your Senator Enzi.
So you have the dates for next year. Do you have a list of events and what day they're going to be for next year yet, or is that still in the works?
Yeah. So the committee that was mentioned by Josh, we're going to bring that together in January. That will include representatives from SGA, SAC, CSB, as well as our cultural organizations. And there will be event chairs and marketing chairs on that committee that will develop that timeline and that list of events for the next semester.
Sorry about that, Peyton. Any other questions? Senator Pizzini?
Hi. I have a question about that budget. You said it was $8,000, correct?
About 80.
80?
Yes.
Got it. Okay, that was the clarification. Thank you.
And I'll emphasize that was across 3 different departments for the funding. So we're talking about athletics, alumni, and student engagement and belonging, as well as funding from SGA for the night at Chicken and Pickle that made up that amount.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much.
All right, thank
Light
you.
clap.
Ooh.
I say clap. Let's do a clap.
Okay.
Switching it up on you, keeping you on your toes. Okay, is there anyone else who would like to speak in public forum? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to Section 5, approval of the consent agenda 5.1. So we just have our November 13th minutes. Unfortunately, one of our files did a little something messy, and so November 6th will be confirmed December 4th. So, yeah, any objections to approving the consent agenda as such? Okay, seeing none, it's approved. Bless. Now we move to Section 6, consideration of pending business 6.1.
Act on request to approve SB-67-129, the Legislative Council Amendment Act.
Is the author here and would like to speak? The floor is yours.
Hey everyone, so this bill is pretty straightforward as I mentioned last time. So this bill would change how often the Legislative Council would be required to meet over in the summer. It changes it from twice a month to once during the summer session, with the added ability for the speaker to call into more sessions if necessary. I'll stand for questions if anyone has any.
Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you. This is this bill's final read, so we'll just move directly into the debate period. Is there anyone, Chairperson Bobbitt?
Move to approve by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections? Okay, it's approved as such. Really killed that one, guys. Good work. Okay, now we move to Section 7, consideration of new business 7.1.
Act on request to approve SB-67-131, authorizing an expenditure from the Special Projects and Capital Fund for the purchase of a new campus recreation vehicle.
Is the author here and would like to speak? You have the floor.
Hello and good evening, everyone. I hope your Wednesday is going well. My Wednesday started at 5:30 this morning, so go K-Bor, woohoo! But anyways, I'm a little bit loopy right now. I'm just kidding. This bill is proposing pulling $90,000 from the Special Projects and Capital Fund to purchase a new truck for the Campus Recreation Department. According to conversations that we've had with Campus Rec, they said that this would benefit several student groups on campus, including the rowing team, racing clubs, and the fishing club. Student groups would be able to access this vehicle and use it to travel to different competitions or pull heavy trailers. However, it's also important to note that after a review of university policy, only university employees can drive any of the vehicles on campus, this one included. With that being said, that would mean that in order for the racing clubs or the fishing club or any other student organization to use this, a member of these student groups would have to be employed by the university in order to access the vehicle and be approved to actually drive it, or they would just have to ask a staff member to drive it for them. Additionally, the $90,000 from the Special Projects and Capital Fund does not include the costs to fill up the truck with gas, maintain it, or pay for any repairs if there were to be an accident. Since we can't charge departments or student groups for damages done to the vehicle, we as student government would have to cover those costs ourselves. I want to make it clear that Matthew and I are not necessarily against or in support of this bill. We simply wanted to follow our process outlined in the executive order that I issued to hear the opinions of the Finance Commission and the Senate and allow you all to utilize your authority as student representatives to have more of a say on where our money is going. Thank you for your consideration. I will not be standing for questions, but I will yield the rest of my time to John Lee to further discuss this proposal. Thank you.
Let's give him a light clap, a light snap, just to welcome John Lee.
Hello, my name is John Lee, Director of Campus Recreation. I spoke to many of you a few weeks ago, a couple months ago now. So we are, and this is Rachel Tuck. She's the assistant rowing coach, and you should know Senator Bobbitt. This is Senator Bobbitt. He is on the rowing team as well. Calvin Cupp, the rowing coach, was going to be here when he thought it was last week. His son is graduating from basic training at the Navy. So I'm the substitute teacher tonight. We were approached by student government and said there was money that we could ask for certain things, and we always have requests. And in my 7 years as director, I haven't asked for any additional fees outside of our student government allotment. So this is our request. We have a 2011 truck that we currently share with Mini Baja, Bass Fishing, and Formula One. And when you have those entities, we all pull really heavy trailers. If you've ever seen the rowing team going anywhere, and by the way, somebody shouldn't be driving the truck unless they're able to drive a trailer with all that behind it. I wouldn't even feel comfortable myself. And I've seen the Mini Baja and SAE trailer they pull. They look like they're setting up for a concert. It's pretty impressive what they pull. And when you pull something like that, you need a truck with a certain engine. And I am not a truck person, so I don't want to pretend like I am. But you can't just get any old truck. You have to have an engine big enough to pull that across the country. And we go across the country. We go to Pennsylvania, we go to Tennessee, we go to Nashville, Texas, Chicago, wherever, and short trips as well. So the 2011 truck has 150,000 miles on it, and it's getting to the end of its day as far as pulling things across the country. So that's why we need a new truck. Our plan, if approved, would be to take the campus recreation old truck, which is 1993, which is used primarily on campus and used primarily by me these days because I paint our play fields at the Metroplex. And I take paint and our machines and bring it all the way to the Metroplex and paint the fields with it. The transmission slips. It's seen its day. But its goal is just to get around campus at this point, not any much further than that. But so it's important us to have. So our plan was to take the 2011 truck and get it out of going to Tennessee and Pennsylvania and use it for campus recreation on campus only and get rid of that 1993 truck, which is older than most of you, and not quite me, but anyways, and then get a new truck that, again, when we were approached, we were thinking what can be the most beneficial to students in our realm, which would be not just the rowing team, but Mini Baja and Formula One. Let's see, any points that you want to?
Yeah, and so a lot of it turns into longevity, right? A truck doesn't just last 1 year, it's something that's going to last over a decade, continuing to serve all the entities that build into it. When I first started here, I've been working as the assistant coach for 7 years now. It was rowing, Formula One, Baja. As bass fishing is starting, they've kind of entered into that fold. So it's a truck that also has the ability to also evolve with the student organizations that we have. I know it was addressed about who can drive the truck and who's paying for the truck maintenance and all that stuff. And so that was one thing I wanted to clarify. So with fleet vehicles and motor pool, like the 12 and 15 passenger vans, you do have to be a university employee to rent those vans and to drive them. And so the trucks that are owned with our department, there's another unit, and I'm not SGA person. I do not have all the numbers on where the policies are. But there are certain policies in place where even before I was an employee here, there was a woman who managed the trucks for the rowing team. When she left, it became under the rowing team to manage the trucks for the shared use from it. And to where Baja and bass fishing and Formula One, those students, they already have their grandfathered in or their policies on who can drive the vehicle. and they'll go through motor pool and they'll get their trailers checked out through the university system to make sure they're good to go. And then Shocker Rowing and Campus Rec maintenance the vehicles. So we're the ones buying the fuel for the vehicle. We're maintaining it after the purchase. So this gas goes for the purchase. It's not for the purchase and then expectation of life on that vehicle. That would then just be, hey, we're purchasing it with these dollars, and then that department would then be overseeing the maintenance and upkeep of it.
Before I walked in, somebody mentioned that there might be other trucks on campus that we could possibly use. I do not know of one. That doesn't mean that there isn't one. But here's the things I've been thinking about since I was told that, is that typically, because most of these go in warm weather times, from about after Labor Day till about early November, the trucks get used a lot, almost every weekend by Mini Baja, Formula One, and rowing. And then again in the spring, after spring break, then again. So if there's another truck on campus, it's got to be available to us just about every weekend. And so I don't know who would own this truck that says, yes, go ahead and take this. Go ahead and take it to Pennsylvania. Go take it to Dallas. Go take it to anywhere you want to take it, whenever you want to take it. If that truck exists, then I'd be more than happy to talk to that person. Again, that was just brought before, so I wasn't going to bring that up. But that's what the truck's for, and it serves student needs, and I think it's a worthwhile purchase. 2011 to 2024 is pretty good longevity. And like Rachel said, we have the budget to maintain vehicles, gasoline, get the oil changed. And with this truck before, we've already shared maintenance cost with Mini Baja and Formula One. We just have the motor pool fix whatever needs to be fixing, and we split it, 3 ways. So, do you have? Yeah.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Before I get going, I just do want to clarify that I am here as a student, not in any official capacity, whether as a chairperson or a senator with the SGA. I have been on the rowing team. This is my 3rd year, and I kind of just wanted to highlight some of the things that rowing as a program does. I do want to specify this truck would not just be for rowing, but rowing does take a majority of the use and time just because of the needs of the program. If all of you guys could look behind you, we have some of our rowers here. All of them come from very diverse backgrounds across the entire university. We have all of the colleges represented. We have a whole bunch of different degree tracks. Everyone back there is an academic weapon. They are doing their absolute best to manage their schedule and represent the university well. Rowing is just a limited portion of what they do. But it's very important for me to know that you guys know just how committed everyone is. Kylie mentioned getting up at 5:30 this morning. Rowing practice starts every morning at 5:45 sharp, which means you were up way before then to make sure you get there. But it's a lasting commitment. Everyone back there financially contributes to the team as well. There's an expectation that everything that needs done, those are the people who do it. So if we are maintaining our equipment, if we are doing community service work, the rowing team has partnerships with Clean Streams and other entities downtown to make sure we are keeping our rivers clean and vibrant for the entirety of the city. We do annual partnership events and host fundraisers and other stuff with those entities to make sure that we are promoting access to the river, not just for Wichita State students, but for members of the community at large. I think some of you guys might be aware that they're currently doing construction on the stretch of the river that we use. So we have been partnered with the Wichita Rowing Association and rowing out of their facilities this year, which means that we don't have the creature comforts of home, but we're making it work every day. And that's why these trucks are so important. Every day for weeks at a time, we had to bring all of our equipment to a section of the river we don't usually row on. And that's only possible if we have reliable equipment. And these trucks may seem like a large upfront expense, but the projected lifespan of it's going to be 15 plus years, We do a lot to make sure that everything we have lasts for well beyond what it's intended. In our boathouse right now, I think some of our newest boats are 2011. We have boats that are well older than just about everyone here, and they are in excellent condition because of the care and dedication we spend on that. And it's very important that everyone understands the level of involvement, and it's rowing is not only a benefit to the people who are directly involved, but every time we have volunteer events across campus, we have campus events, we have everything like that. We have people who show up and show out for those. We participate early in the year getting students engaged with events like S'mores and Oars, where we invite the entire campus community to come down and experience our boathouse, get them out on the river. We partnered with the River Vista apartment complex and the developer down there, where we actually run a business out of the other side right next to our boathouse, where all of the profits after expenses go directly back to the team. We have a donor base that we work diligently with to make sure that SGA is contributing as little as we possibly can. We're doing the best that we can to make sure that the rowing team is self-sufficient and that the rowing team and everyone we partner with and serve is doing everything we can to lessen the impact on the rest of the campus community. And it goes a long way. This past year, we pulled a couple hundred scooters from the river to turn in for scrap metal so that we could afford to go to competitions and conferences. And it's absolutely important that you take into consideration the broader aspect of everything we do, not just this upfront cost.
Lastly, whether you vote yay or nay on this, I just want you to know we really care about your student fee dollars. The Heskett Center is run by 5 full-time staff members. That's it. We have no administrative specialists. I paint the fields. I do the operations. We have Beth who does all the payroll, even though we have 40% of the student employees in student affairs. We have no administrative specialists. We care about your dollars. The boathouse costs $1 a year because we worked really hard to working with the city leaders, that was Wichita City Council and the leaders of Wichita State, and they made a deal. We get to pay $1, so we don't ask anything from that. So that is our ask, kind ask, and we appreciate your time and any questions you have.
Okay. Are there any questions? Okay, I'm going to go Vice President Font.
Okay, if you allow me, Speaker Owens, I have 2 questions.
I'll permit it.
Okay, so my first question is for trailing capacity, how much do you anticipate having to tow for your truck? And my second question is, do you consult like the other groups that use the trucks, like the Baja or Formula or the fishing organizations about this request?
Just on your first question, are you asking what weight we pull? Would you two know that? This is where I need Calvin. Do you know the weight? I mean, you could.
I'll allow it.
So our trailer empty for the Formula team weighs about 2,500 pounds. Once we load all of our tools and equipment in there, it can weigh anywhere from 10,000 to 12,000 pounds currently. And we have a sponsor that's reached out to us about giving us a new trailer, which this truck would help facilitate because we need a gooseneck hitch for this new trailer that we'd be looking at getting from a donor.
And I would, go ahead.
What I would say is, so our trailer, it's a 40-foot trailer. And so fully loaded, it's going to be thousands of pounds. For the actual number, we can get that to you. Our head coach, Calvin, he is the numbers guy from it. But your second question as to talking with the other programs that use this truck, we have been in communication with them. That way they know, hey, here's what we're doing. And so as they're looking at how do we continue to expand and establish good programming for their students. They know, hey, this is what's going on, so we're not trying to spend dollars on an older truck, that we're saying, hey, can we transfer this over to get a new trailer that's going to be better suited for your equipment? And we're also in talks with them. I manage when the truck checkout is. What time do they check it out? The driver's license on files and all the safety aspects from it. So I would say we're in very constant communication with all the groups using it.
Okay, Senator Beatty.
Just real quick. For a little bit of context, like truck and trailer included, we're about the size of a semi for the rowing trailer. We take so many safety precautions to make sure those boats don't go flying off. An A is about 40 feet long and 50 feet long and 55 feet, and it would go straight through your windshield and then shatter all over the highway. So we do our absolute best to make sure every single safety precaution that can be taken is taken, and it all comes back to taking care of your equipment. If we lose a boat, we are not going to come to SGA and ask you guys to buy a new one. We are entirely self-insured through the state of Kansas, and everything in that boathouse is tremendously valuable to us because we do not get a replacement if it gets damaged or broken.
Now, Senator Beatty.
Sorry, I didn't have the red ring, so I was. I'm probably going to ask a question that I'm sure many of us are wondering: why 90,000? Why not a lower trim?
It goes back to, again, what we just talked about, the weight. So when we go buy this truck, we're going to go to a dealership and people that know this kind of thing, and you have to have a certain size truck. And if anybody's on a side note, if anybody buy a truck that's even halfway decent anymore, used trucks go for that are 8 years old, $40,000 or $50,000, and so we're looking for a new one that tows the weight that these two gentlemen and Rachel discussed. So that's why we want, and if there's money left over, we'll give it back. By the way, we're not just looking for all the bells and whistles, other than that the engine pulls what it does. The Heskett Center, my experience with this real quick, is in the 93 truck for back in the 90s, and I'm old, so we used it for a little while to pull trailers, and we messed up the engine. And that's why it's relegated to campus, because it wasn't big enough to pull the weight.
Yeah, when you're looking at pulling a load, it's what can the engine hold? And I'll let my guys that know more about trucks than I do, but it's also that safety component, all right? Location of where are you doing a lot of highway driving? Are you off-road, all right? A lot of our competitions, I've had my rowing team literally push the truck out of mud before. So making sure it has four-wheel drive in addition, not just a front wheel or rear wheel, and those also components. And so when you spec it out, 90,000 honestly is on the lower end from it. If you want to get all the bells and whistles, that's easily going to be 6 digits. If I did my math right? Because 90 is 5. And so that's us looking at, when we're looking at the market here and what does it show for those types of trucks, saying, hey, if we're trading in this truck and we're getting just the necessities of it, what we think that's going to be that cost about it. And so it is an estimate. We could have estimated it much higher and said, hey, we're going to go spend 150 on a truck, because guarantee you could easily. But this was just that number, knowing where trucks have been for the type of truck that's needed between the organizations.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question and then we'll get to Senator Mallard.
Can I contribute real quick? We have answered that, or we have talked about the funding aspect of it before, both when we met with the president, the vice president, and the finance commission. SGA would not be writing a check for 90 grand, just giving it to the rowing team. Essentially, SGA would just pay the invoice, so the money would never leave SGA's account. If we come in under 90,000, it's not us giving you back the money. You just would not spend the money. Yeah.
So President Howard addressed this within their speech, but I wanted some clarification here. Talk to me about insuring this vehicle pending the passage of this bill.
So for insurance of vehicles, for any of the state vehicles, the state of Kansas is self-insured. So that's with the insurance that would be on there. Now for maintenance and coverage, that would fall under the university or the department, campus recreations, when you're talking about maintenance versus an accident. And an accident, the state of Kansas is self-insured, and so that's where we follow. That's actually where all of our vehicles are already currently under. There's not a separate policy that I know of.
To clarify, if the truck gets into an accident, the department has to pay for it. So even though the university is insured, the cost is transferred to the department to cover the cost of any damage to any of the university vehicles, whether from that insurance perspective. And then I think to clarify then the other point and for everyone, technically, the university owns every single vehicle that's on campus. However, some of them, and very rare, are assigned to departments. Housing, when they purchase their trucks or their vehicles, are assigned to housing to cover the complete cost of anything that happens to that, even though they live in the insurance of the university. And I think, I don't know if any of you cared about that, but I was going to tell you anyway, so that you are aware kind of how this bureaucracy system works when it comes to some of these vehicles, that they do and are still bound by all state of Kansas rules that go with it, including any of the insurance or damages or things like that.
Thank you, Gabe. For example, the geology department has a truck that pulls their trailer that's specific and only used by their department.
Okay. Senator, no, okay, got it. Okay. Any other questions? Senator Pizzini.
Hi, I have a question about the maintenance fees. What are your average maintenance fees for the year with your current equipment?
So part of that, every year it changes because as the truck ages, it gets more maintenance costs. So we've been spending more on average a year over the last couple of years. We are lucky and we have a great relationship and sponsorship with BG Products, and they maintenance our oil. They do our oil changes, and they'll also look at the truck for us for those types of things, and they'll do a sponsorship for us from there, and we'll go with motor pool from it. But for example, we had to, what is it called? What the load bearing chains go on. Not the hitch. But so trailers, when you have a certain weight, they have chains on them that actually kind of make a triangle, and that helps with distributing the weight of the trailer. And so that truck, because it's pulled so often, we had to fix that assembly because it no longer was even, and so that was actually affecting the load. And so that's not a cost that you might have annually, but we had to fix it, and that was a couple $1,000s to fix that one item. And so I can get back with you on the numbers for how much it annually is to maintenance now, but we are seeing an increase every year with the 2011 truck. And for the 99, I'll let John speak to.
Because of their sponsorship, we have, as long as we don't damage it, I would say it's less than $1,000 because I pay the bills. So it's not terrible. And if you get a new truck, there's a warranty for a certain number of 5 or 6 years that we'll get, and then of course we'll change the oil and change the tires, and that's all on us because we already have that budget. We have to finance it somehow.
Okay. Any other? Senator Mallard.
So you did kind of answer a question earlier. Can you, or did you guys speak to the geology department? And I do ask this because I am a geology major, so I do know the rules of vehicle usage, but did you guys talk to them at all?
No.
I have not talked to them. I looked at their website that talks about their usage of their truck vehicle.
Okay. Senator Robertson.
A little point of information for other senators. I looked at Mel Hambleton Ford's website. The current average price for an F-350
Senator, I'm going to interrupt you there.
$85,000.
The debate period would be a perfect opportunity for that, but let's end our questioning period here really quickly before we get into that. But then, hey, I'll call on you first, I pinky swear. Any other questions for our guests here? Vice President Fawn?
I know we discussed this when you originally proposed this to us, but do you seek any other sources before you went to the Student Government Association for funds?
So for the truck, could we hold out and continue to hold out to see how long we could last with this truck? That would probably be what we would do. Looking at where our budget is and the resources that Wright have, we wouldn't opt to make this choice, and John, please correct me if I'm wrong at any point from you, because there is a little bit of life left, right? It's a 2011. The last truck we had was a 1999, all right? And that lasted for 23 years, roughly. And so this truck, it's not 23 years old, but I can tell you, I don't want to drive that 19.9 on the road, driving to Nashville with a trailer. And so when I say that there's life left, it's one of those things, if we have to devote money on, can I give my athlete scholarship? Can I spend money on them in this capacity? That's going to typically be my first choice until we're like, hey, you know what, this is really, we can't compete, we can't travel, we are there. And the challenging part is when you look at how much money you can keep over between years, 90,000 is not a number that we can typically roll over into the next year to say, hey, we're going to save up every year a little bit at a time, because we don't get to keep all of that budget money. And so it's hard to save up, because that would be our first preference, saying, hey, we can save up a little bit over time, and so that we can self-afford and then not have to request funding from it. But that's not what we're able to do with where our budget is from it. When you're talking about outside sources, I can talk to donors, but I don't have anyone that would say, hey, here's 90,000 to go buy a truck.
I just want to emphasize what's really hurt us, and this is not a political, this is the facts. We were only allowed to keep 10% of our budget for the last 4 or 5 years. I paid for concerts, I paid for other things. No matter how much money I brought in, it all has to go. I can keep 10%, which is our student fee budget's been about 85. That means I get to keep about 85,000. Rowing gets to keep about 20. So and if we make more money, it just goes away. So that's why we haven't saved, because we're not allowed to.
Okay, any other questions?
Madam Speaker, I think to clarify, we're talking about unspent student fee money, not just your budget. We're talking about your unspent student fee money.
Any money that we generate, from whatever source we generate it from, which is usually for campus rec, rentals, memberships, whatever source we get, we could only keep 10%. And
I think to clarify, SJ's policy only says unspent student fee money is 10%. Whatever the rest of it is a different body's decision. I think we're talking about student fee money.
People above me.
Yeah.
People above me.
And then I did have a question, Rachel, to clarify. Can you talk what you mentioned about the grandfathered in policy of driving? Because that is new information that I was not aware of.
So, and part of this comes before I was an employee, but there was an employee here that actually managed the truck oversight from it. And with the department's heads on Formula One and Baja, their criteria from it is we'll get a copy of their driver's license. We'll go through that. Proves very similar to what Motor Pool does from it, and we'll check and make sure they're in our records from there. They get their truck and trailer. Our truck is always checked out by Motor Pool annually. They'll get their trailer checked at Motor Pool, and then they're released to go for their trip from it. And so that was a preceding me policy that's always been honored through the university from it. For those specific vehicles.
Even with the change that happened in the spring of this past year,
What change are you discussing?
where they eliminated any student who's not an employee's ability to drive any university vehicle on the insurance?
To my understanding, there was no discrepancy with them still being able to use that specific vehicle.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's get back to the questions. Senator Murphy?
If the $90,000 were to, more like we would vote yes on it, is there a specific timeline or like a specific deadline that you're giving yourself in order to buy said truck?
We would just go out, my guess, between now and the end of January, and then give you all the invoice, whatever Senator Bobbitt said is the protocol. There's no reason to wait unless we think we're going to save money by waiting a month. But we would just go do it.
Okay. I'm going to entertain at least one more point of inquiry before we move on to the debate period. Is there anyone else who would like to ask an important question? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Everyone clap for our guests. And to those in the back, that clap was for you too. Thanks for coming. Okay, so people, we've been here before, we've done this before, so we'll move directly into the debate period. Is there anyone who'd like to speak during this time? Senator Mallard. Oh, nope, I said Senator Robertson. Thank you for catching me.
Point of information for everyone here, the average cost of a F-350 with a diesel engine on Mill Hamilton Ford's website right now is about $84,500. So $90,000 isn't actually that unreasonable, which I am kind of surprised by, because that's expensive.
Thank you so much, Senator Robinson. Now we'll move to Senator Mallard and then Vice President Pond.
Yeah, so I just wanted to give some insight on the geology side of things. So we do have a truck as well as 3 Suburbans that do have the capability to tow. The biggest problem with that is, and I'll just read a statement from an instructor that we have in the geology department. The geology department vans are exclusively used for the department and paid for by department funds. We do have a deal with Anthro, mainly because we actually have a lot of collaboration, especially with GIS, as well as other aspects that they use a lot of our equipment. So I want people to understand in Senate that this does not mean that Campus Rec would have the ability to use department vehicles. They are funded and used by the geology department, and so even though we have them, that does not mean that they can use them. I just want to say that because I do not want that to be a factor that will sway your vote if you think, oh, we have enough vehicles. Also, the Suburbans, from what I know, they have the ability to tow trailers, but they would possibly not have the ability to tow as much weight, like the 12,000. I believe I looked up and there's something that said at least like 8,000, but the truck probably could. But again, I do not want that to be a deciding factor.
Vice President Vaughn.
Yeah, so the reason why President Howard and I brought this to the floor, which is to hear, we would like to hear what the Senate's input on this this request. Just to clarify a few points, when Campus Recreation said SGA reached out to them, I want to just clarify that President Howard and I did not reach out to Campus Rec directly about this. Someone else reached out to them. In addition, I would highly encourage senators that could benefit from this $90,000 request to abstain from this, as you would not want to be seen as benefiting from this $90,000 request, and I will intend to bring MRB cases against anyone who would benefit from this. For me personally, I would also say in the point that the department would pay for all these costs. Ultimately, a lot of it is student fee money. It goes through student fees anyway, so regardless, we would see that either through the student fee cycle or in this request right now, regardless if it passes or not. But yeah, that's what I have to say for now.
Thank you, Vice President Vaughn. Anyone else who would like to speak during this time? Okay, Senator Hatch.
I think it's a little important to note that any vehicle that they use would be funded, like the maintenance would be funded through what Vice President Fawn was talking about. If we get them a new vehicle and they use student fee money to do maintenance on it, they would have done that with an old vehicle as well. So I think that's a little bit of a non-issue, especially when you consider that new vehicles are going to need less maintenance.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to speak. So we talk a lot in this space about supporting our student organizations and about making sure our students feel supported and heard and listened to within this space and the institution itself. And this is a fantastic opportunity to do that, people. And I think in Kylie's speech, she raised fantastic points about gas, insurance, and those kinds of things. But from me personally, after hearing the presentation, all the questions, I have no concerns in that front, especially if Rowing and the other organizations historically fund all of those things or are through the regular policies that be beautiful stuff. But in regards to how you will all vote today, I just hope you vote in your heart, in your spirit, whatever. But as Vice President Fawn so eloquently put, our ethics policy still exists. So just like when we discussed appropriations, if you are a part of any of these organizations, I highly urge you to abstain from this vote. I won't do any MRBs, but hey, if Matthew will, so just keep an eye on that. And if you are in a leadership space in any of those orgs, that's where I say you absolutely should abstain. But other than that, highly suggest it. But yeah, Senator Robertson.
One question about ethics. Considering that this is being purchased for a department on campus and is not being purchased for a club, at least directly, does that mean that if you're a member of the club, you could vote on it because it is not going straight to your team?
Well, Joseph, that's a great question. So specifically, the ethics policy has a little bit of a vagueness in there, and that's on purpose, particularly because it's meant for you all to do what you think is best in that instance. If you are a part of an organization who will use this vehicle, well, hey, you might need to abstain. But ultimately, that is your decision as a senator or as a human being sitting in this space of whether or not you think that's a good idea or not. The impending consequences from that are, you must all accrue that. So just be aware of any potential conflicts that you might see in the event that, your organization or organization you're a part of or participate in may use this vehicle. But ultimately, it is still your decision to make about whether or not you want to abstain or not. Does that answer your question? And Advisor Fonseca, if you have anything else on that you want to share as well.
I don't think I do. I think you said it perfectly.
Oh, go me. Okay. And now, okay, sorry, where were we? Now we're back into debate period. Okay, Senator Enzi.
Mine goes back to that voting as well. So there are 5 people by my count in this room that have to abstain from that. With our current bylaws and how they're written, an abstention really just counts as a no. So how do we want to go about that? Because that's a fairly decent portion of the Senate in this room. 7, not 5.
Great question. I think ultimately we'll see. That's the tough thing about this, is that when we do something that benefits so many orgs and we have members who are so involved, thank you all for being so involved on campus, it's a little tough in that aspect, but we just have to really see where the vote lies, and there's nothing really beyond that we can see. But just noting also your concern about the no vote being abstentions. I hear you. I appreciate you. And we've just got to go through it and see. President Howard.
But I just wanted to add some insight about the ethics policy and say that the purpose of the ethics policy is to ensure that while we are acting in these spaces, we're voting based on what would benefit our constituents and not necessarily our own individual interests. So it is your own right that you reserve to vote based on how you see fit. But keep in mind that when you're in this space, you're not just representing yourself, you're representing every single person that votes for you and every single person that is eligible to vote for you as well. So I will leave it at that.
Fantastic point, President Howard. And I will also emphasize additionally, as I said earlier, the policy is vague in that sense because it allows a sense of choice for all of our members here to decide what is best for them and also what is best for their constituents. If you sit in a space where you are a senator for the engineering college and you're like, hey, my constituents need this, then that's another aspect. Then, hey, I participate in a leadership position within this organization, and that is specifically stipulated to be a big no in the ethics policy. However, everything else beyond that is a little bit more iffy in that sense. But I just suggest that you all vote on your heart's desire, whatever is going to help your constituents and make sure that we're really addressing our student orgs on campus and just doing so in a way that you believe is best. But it is tough, and I really appreciate additional comments about that because, it's something we got to talk about. Okay. Senator Henley.
Just as like a clarification question, I guess, because around this time, truck prices, car prices do fluctuate a lot, are we maxing at 90? So if they go over, do they come back and ask for more money, or is 90 like the cap that we're giving?
Fantastic question. 90,000 is the max as stipulated within the resolution or the bill itself. the thing with funding bills, especially for the special projects and capital fund, is you can go under, you can't go over. And for these types of resolutions and bills, you really have to just keep it above where you think. That would be also an individual discussion to be had for the rowing team or other orgs that benefit from this usage of how are we going to fund any additional costs and those kinds of things. But right now, it's just that $90,000 figure that we're considering. Thank you for your question. Senator Robertson.
Back to the issue of voting again. I wish I didn't have to beat this horse, but it's not dead yet. Is it possible for us to do something like vote to suspend the bylaws, go to Robert's rules for voting, and then vote based on that? Because that would allow us to count abstentions as abstentions and not as no's, which would mean that the 7 people that would not be able to vote wouldn't have our votes effectively counted as no's anyways.
Here's what I got for you. So, right now, we haven't heard debate on whether or not people support or against this bill yet. So I suggest we take a minute and to allow some debate about this bill, because if we're not seeing a majority, if we're seeing a majority of people being in favor of this legislation, then necessarily it wouldn't be, necessary to do that. But ultimately, in my time here, we've never done that before, so I'd shoot that over to Advisor Fonseca to see the schematics behind that, doing that. But ultimately, I urge us to have and begin discussion on this item to really see where the room sits.
I would probably encourage having conversation first, and then I am fairly certain your rules will not allow you to do that. But if you continue your debate, I will do some perusing to see if that is an option. However, right now I'm going to put my advising hat on. I think I want to be, clear about the ethics policy as what it was intended to do and what it was designed to do. I know we haven't really talked about it since appropriations, but it was designed to prevent senators who directly benefit from decisions of the greater body to directly benefit from receiving authorities or things from the student government. Additionally, it was designed to protect the rest of the student government from saying that we're just funding things that are going to directly benefit us and not the greater student body. So and it's funny now because I think about this, the conversation we had when we were voting on it was how do you weaponize the ethics policy? And it is also intended to not be weaponized because of the group that reviews the complaints to the ethics policy. So while I completely support the comments that were made about the ethics policy because you are bound by it, I don't want you to misinterpret what the ethics policy says either. While there are specific languages that does say if you are in a leadership role or you are president of an organization that would benefit from these resources, the same sentiment we had during appropriations when a lot of you abstained from some of the funding decisions because you were in those capacities, the ethics policy is clear. You cannot vote on things that you will directly benefit from if you hold a leadership role and/or president of an organization. However, remember, the ethics policy is also designed for self-senators to make decisions on their own. No one in this room can tell you you can't vote this way or you can't do that this way because it is up to you as an individual senator to decide how you want to cast your vote. Just because you do cast that vote doesn't mean you're free from consequence afterwards either if there is a violation. The reality is there has to be a proven violation for it to be impacted. So I don't want you to just assume that it's telling you no, because no one can tell you no. Constitutionally, you have the right to vote. You just need to make that decision for yourself. The one time I have seen the ethics policy be used to a senator, the conversation had to be, how did you not directly benefit from your vote? Ultimately, I do not want you to be afraid to cast your vote in one way, but I also want you to be aware of what it says and then not to misinterpret what it does not say either. But to Senator Robertson's point, I will look to see if there's that option, but again, I'm fairly certain that there is not.
One more question for you, Gabe. If I walk out of the room before the vote starts, does that become an absence and change the quorum numbers?
Not automatically. Someone has to request a quorum call first to update the number, and that's how we'll update the number. But it doesn't automatically happen when you walk out.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Hey, I appreciate your creative solutions here, but ultimately we just need to get feedback on the bill itself to make sure we have an idea. But first, I will allow a few questions for clarity, if any of you have those. Okay, Chairperson.
Madam Speaker, really fast, just really fast.
Go ahead.
Again, I would spend time debating. Let me look into some of the questions you have asked, and I would prefer us not talk about it. Just have your debate, and I will come back with some information to guide you guys on, or guide you all on.
Chairperson Aons, did you still have something?
I'm so sorry. This is more of a statement than a question.
Nope.
Okay.
Okay. Chairperson Bobbitt, did you have a question? Okay. So we'll move into the debate period. I'm going to start with all those in favor who would like to speak. Please raise your hand. Okay, Senator Pizzini.
Hi. I would just like to say that I want to speak in affirmation. We have had quite a few individuals and organizations both come before this body for funding for many different different objectives that they want. This one is one that foremost is focusing on the safety of the people who are both driving.
I'm going to interrupt real quick. Point of
Yes.
order.
Vice President Fawn.
Some
Sorry,
senators
Cynthia.
are not in their seats and talking during while Senator Pizzini is talking.
Thank you. That's okay.
Oh.
Senator Pizzini, please continue.
So I just want to speak in affirmation because I believe that giving the funds would really benefit the students. And that's what we're here for. And again, the Special Projects and Capital Fund is student fees, and it should go towards the initiatives that benefit the students, and this is one of them. So if I'd rather vote on this than something that is going to not directly benefit a student, like removing a statue.
Okay, any not in favor? Any against that would like to speak? Okay, Vice President Fawn.
I will be speaking in negation of this bill. I'm speaking in negation because I feel like it doesn't reach enough students. Besides, there's the soccer rowing, plus the racing teams, plus the fishing club. And two of those organizations have already gone through the appropriations process and received funds from the Student Government Association. I feel like it doesn't reach enough students as some of the other bills we had from the Special Projects and Capitals Fund would, with some of the other bills we had with like the RSC roof or filling the student reserves. I'm just not convinced that $90,000 is justifiable for this one expense. And I would be more than happy to work with different departments on campus to maybe get something together for campus recreation. I just don't feel comfortable giving $90,000 to campus rec for this expense, but also just that I don't feel it reaches enough students as much as I love all these other organizations on campus for this amount.
Okay, all of those in favor of this bill. Okay, I'm going to go Senator Murphy.
So I'm going to be speaking in affirmation. I think when we all came in here, when we first read the agenda, that $90,000 was a lot. Though, as it was explained to me, as Senator Robertson had pointed out, the kind of the truck that they would be looking for is about $85,000. They wouldn't be necessarily spending all $90,000. They'd be spending, like, that's their cap. Like, if they spend less, great. Then they don't have to. They can just give that back. My thing is, this is a big one-time expenditure. Everything from maintenance, all that stuff, that's on them. That's not coming from us. As well as you're thinking about how many students it would impact right now, this truck would be used for like another decade plus. That's way more students than there are now. So you also have to think about how it would impact students down the road. Would the price for a truck be increased by like that time that they would need to replace it? I think that it's a lot when you just look at the number, but in context, I think it's a worthwhile investment.
Okay, anyone speaking in negation? Okay, Senator Beatty.
Although I am in Baja, and as a Baja student, I feel like this would benefit me. I'm speaking in negation because I believe that it doesn't reach to enough people. There's really 4 main groups that will benefit from this. One is an athletics department, and then 2 are from Shocker Racing. And I believe that's a really niche group that it will certainly benefit us, but I also think that it doesn't go to benefit the college as a whole, or sorry, the university as a whole, and our overall reputation.
Chairperson Bobbitt, and then we'll go to Senator Mallard.
I'm not going to touch on the truck itself because, yes, but I do want to say some things about the ethics policy. Poor, young, naive Senator Bobbitt filed a case with the Supreme Court last session inquiring about the application of the ethics policy and the wonderful guidance that the Supreme Court had to offer was it doesn't matter. They essentially said, vote your conscience, and you are perfectly fine. They highlighted the leadership requirement, but there was no other restrictions placed towards the ethics policy. Then once again touching that, I sit on the membership review board. The MRB is there to protect you as senators. The ethics policy is there to protect you as senators. We are not going to use MRB to weaponize against you. You should not have to fear when making votes that voting will take you out of the Senate. You are a senator. Everyone in this room was elected to serve a student group. Vote how you feel your student group would want you to. Don't be concerned about anything else. It will be taken care of down the line. Then kind of final thoughts, we are currently sitting on $700,000 of student money that we have no plan for. It has been identified in the budget as discretionary funds. So keep that in mind as you guys consider this money. And then I do want to clarify, Shocker Rowing is not an athletics department.
I'm so sorry, Senator Mallard. I feel it important for Gabe, Dr. Gabriel Fonseca. Abby, will you poke him? To report his findings about the ethics policy so that we can just gain some clarity here, because I really hate to see us all arguing about something rather than the contents of the bill itself. That makes me sad. So.
Sorry, I lost it. So to maybe expand a little bit on Senator Bobbitt's point, specifically in Section 3, under the responsibility to the public trust, number 2, it does say that if you serve in a student organization leadership role, that you must abstain from any vote related to your student organization and the receipt of money, awards, or any beneficial services from the association for said student organization. Second, to Senator Robertson, right? Yes, sorry. To Senator Robertson's point, no, there is not an ability to suspend your voting rules in that component. Mainly because the voting rules don't have the ability for you to suspend it.
Okay, I hope that provides some clarity there. I'm going to go to Senator Mallard.
Yes, so I'll be speaking in affirmation for a few reasons. Initially, yes, I was under the agreement of negation that it wouldn't reach enough people, but it was actually stated that the current vehicle is used to bring materials to also paint the fields, and I would hopefully be under the assumption that the new vehicle would also maybe be used for that. And for those of you who do not know, but those fields, I mean, are practically used every single week. I live by the Metroplex, and they are used by high school groups and middle school groups, and there are people who, I mean, they're there all the time. There are groups that do Frisbee, it's like a Frisbee football, the soccer, and we even use them as students. And so, yes, it's not being used to tow a vehicle to there, it's being used to tow equipment. But also, it was also stated a bit earlier that this vehicle would be used for, it could be used for a decade, and there are other groups over time that would start to use it. And it does state in the resolution, campus rec. It does not state Baja, it does not state formula, it does not state rowing, and it does not state fishing. Those are the groups that they stated that would benefit from this. There are definitely other groups and other possibly even departments or other people that would benefit from this. Those are just the groups that would most likely be using it the most, because obviously they have trailers. Now, also, if you have a vehicle that has a trailer, especially a truck, that doesn't mean that you would always use the hitch. You could use the truck bed to haul resources around, especially if you're playing games, again, over at the Metroplex, or if you're possibly doing an event over at Shocker West or something that they might be hosting that they could use this vehicle for. And so there are a lot of other applications, and I want people to think of the possibility of other groups that would use this. And again, as it was stated, we have this money, $700,000 and $90,000 that can be used. So,
is there anyone else who'd like to speak during this time that hasn't spoken yet? Sorry, Vice President Vaughn. Senator Hatch.
So I was just doing some quick napkin math, and if we take into account the size of the rowing team, which I'm guesstimating about 18 people are here, there may be more people, and we factor that over 15 years, just the rowing team using this would be $333.33 per person per year. That doesn't seem like it is too big of a number. It's also important to consider that if we don't fund this, I know that they said that they have a couple years for truck. We're just kicking it down the road for somebody else to find the money somewhere else, or we're shutting down all of these orgs. I don't foresee the engineering department coming up with the money for a new truck for Baja and Formula. I don't foresee Campus Rec magically coming up with $90,000. And so, when you take into consideration the other 3 groups that would be primarily using this and the number of people that would use this over the course of the next 15 years, the cost per student per year is getting pretty low. I think that if you keep it consistent with 18 people on a org using this, it'd be close to $100 per student per year. So I guess it's a question of value if $100 per person per year is enough to keep 4 orgs running.
I just also want to say something really quickly, and I'm not sure if it's a joke, but to address it anyway on the terms of walking out so your vote doesn't count as an abstention. What an inappropriate sentence. You all are all here to serve the constituents with which you have been voted to, and I hesitate so much to attempt to abuse the system in order to favor organizations. And oh boy, that ethics policy, I know we talked about it a lot, but that is something I would highly consider not to do. Now, hey, I can't control it if you have to go use the bathroom or take a drink of water. In fact, I encourage you to do so. But I say that is an abuse of the system. And I would say I do not recommend it, and I would frown upon it, actually. So I don't know if it was a joke or not. If it was, haha. If it wasn't, ooh boy, don't do it. But beyond that, also, if you do choose to do that, you're not going to be accounted towards attendance, and for some of you, that would bring you to MRB and violation of your duties as senator. So, Hey, don't do it. Anyway, any other debate? Okay. Senator Robertson.
For the rowing team in the back, how many of you guys are in the Honors College?
I'm so sorry, that's not appropriate. We cannot address the audience in this. Unfortunately, I'm so sorry. We can't do it, but we'd love to get you involved. But it's not appropriate at this time. But hey, I like your creative thinking, as always, keeping us on our toes. Senator Pang.
Motion to end debate and move to the voting period.
Okay, that is in order. Do I have a second? Okay. Okay, seeing multiple, that is a debatable motion, so is there anyone who'd like to speak during this time? Okay, Senator Haynes.
Yeah, I'll be voting in affirmation of that because truly we ain't really talking about nothing. We're just talking in circles about a policy that you really truly can ignore. So yeah, let's get the show on the road.
Okay, I'm going to move directly into the voting period on that motion. So, clerk.
Please turn on your clickers and then double click slowly AA. Okay, voting is now open.
Now, this is a vote, again, to end the debate period and to move directly into the voting period on this piece of legislation.
With 20 yes, 0 no's, and 4 abstentions, the motion passes.
Okay, now that brings us directly into the voting period on this legislation itself. Just keep in mind everything we've talked about today. I'm not going to, as Senator Robertson so eloquently put, beat a dead horse. So vote your conscience.
Voting is now open. With 16 yes, 0 no's, and 8 abstention, the motion passes.
Beautiful stuff, people. Thank you all for joining us. One second. Chairperson Bobbitt, are you still open to the motion or it's looking too late?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Okay. Are there any motions? Chairperson Bobbitt.
I move to bring SB 67105 to the floor, or suspend the rules to bring SB 67105 to the floor.
Second time we're attempting this, people. This is in order for us to quickly, obviously, get this on the floor and then do the amendment and then vote on this legislation so we can be done with it. But because our bylaws stipulate that we have to have a 24 hours to include everything that's on the agenda, we need a 2/3 majority to overrule and suspend that, which is why this vote would require a 2/3 majority to pass. Now I do need a second for this motion. Okay, seeing multiple seconds. It is a debatable motion. Is there anyone who would like to speak during this time? Okay, that's fine. Seeing none, we'll move directly into the voting period.
Voting is now open. With 20 yes, 2 no's, and 2 abstentions, the motion passes.
Okay, beautiful. Oh, light clap. Okay, beautiful. We move directly to consideration of SB-67-105, Leadership Succession Act. Did you have something, Vice President Fawn?
I move to extend the meeting to 10 o'clock.
Do we have a second? Okay, seeing multiple seconds. Someone remind me if this is debatable. Okay, beautiful. I thought not. Okay, it's late. So we'll move directly into the voting period to extend the meeting till 10. 10? 10.
Voting is now open. missing a few of you, if you could re-click. With 18 yes, 6 no, and 0 abstentions, the motion passes.
Okay. That brings us to our end time being 10 p.m., so let's try to get this done. So we'll move to, is the author here and would like to speak? Would not like to speak, that's A-okay. And we'll move directly into the voting period, which would be a perfect time to give us an amendment.
I'd like to propose an amendment.
Oh, sorry, I said voting. It's not the voting period, it's the debate period. Team, what's happening? Oh, okay. Senator Pizzini, during the debate period.
I'd like to propose an amendment. I would like to add the statement that the student body shall be notified at least 12 hours prior to the emergency meeting of the Senate once a limited election has been called. The methods of communication will be at the discretion of the central office.
Okay, and just tell me what section that would be.
Oh.
I can try to help you find it.
Section 2, item 2, and then I would like it to be right under item 2.
So a subpoint B.
Yes.
Okay. Gabe, do you have that?
Will you just say that one more time?
Oh, sure. Oh, the location or?
No, the verbiage of the amendment.
Okay. The student body shall be notified at least 12 hours prior to the emergency meeting of the Senate once a limited election has been called. The methods of communication will be at the discretion of the central office.
Perfect. And just for reference, I'm going to change student body to say the associations, and
Okay.
language says
That's
association.
fine.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, do we have a second for this amendment? Okay, seeing multiple seconds. This is a debatable motion, so is there any debate on including this amendment in the legislation as is currently presented? Okay, seeing no debate, that means we'll move directly into voting on the amendment itself.
Voting is open. With 24 yeses, the motion passes unanimously.
Light snap would be appropriate during this time. Beautiful stuff. Okay, now we're still in the debate period on the legislation itself. Chairperson Bobbitt?
I move to previous question.
Okay, is there a second to end debate? Okay, seeing multiple seconds, thank you. Now this is a debatable motion, so is there any?
Rise to a point of order.
Okay.
It is not debatable.
I did just check and it is debatable. So, okay, well then let's get a third opinion, shall we?
So it whatever the speaker says it is. So keep in mind that the speaker has the ability to set whatever procedures that she wants in this room. And her consistent process has been, it is debatable, and that is up to the speaker to decide. So, Madam Speaker, the choice is yours.
I say it is a debatable motion, but you do have the opportunity to overrule the decision of the speaker, which, oh boy, I wouldn't recommend it. Not that you shouldn't, it's just that, oh boy, we do not have the time. Okay, is there anyone who would like to speak during this debate period on ending debate? Beautiful, seeing none, we'll move directly into the voting period.
Voting is now open. With 23 yes and 1 abstention, the motion passes.
Okay, beautiful. That moves us directly into voting on the full legislation itself, including the amendment that we just passed. Is there any questions before we move to this? Beautiful. Voting.
Voting is now open. With 23 yes, 0 no's, and 1 abstention, the motion passes.
Okay, That moves us directly into, if I can find my document really quick, oh my goodness. Oh boy. What's happening? Okay, moves us directly into Section 8, adjournment. Now the Student Government Association Senate will stand in adjournment until Wednesday, December 4th at 6:30 p.m. as Committee of the Whole, where no formal action will be taken, followed by formal session starting at 7:30 p.m. We are adjourned.